Hey everybody, welcome back to Red Lipstick Club Reality. Listen, I was going to wait till tomorrow because I was like, I'm not really here to do makeup and stuff. But that episode had me so heated. When I tell you I had to turn it off at one point and take a break and come back to watch it, we're going to get into it, but it was a moment. Anyway, before we get started, you guys, if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe to the channel. I'm talking about everything Sister Wives here. And right now I am covering season 18. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And if this is your return and you're already a subscriber, welcome back. Glad you guys came to talk with me a little bit. It is football season. I'm a huge Bronco fan, so I had to represent just a little bit because we're getting ready for the regular season next week. So I'm excited. But without further ado, I had to take notes, and normally I can just kind of go off of what I've watched because there's usually areas of the episode that I like distinctly remember that I know I want to talk about. And so I'm pretty good. I don't really necessarily need notes, but this is probably going to be a longer video because I had so many notes. First off, kudos to TLC because I was really concerned that because it was so delayed and we're watching it 2 years behind, and because we kind of already know the outcomes of a lot of this, that this might be kind of boring, right? And it would just feel like it was moving way too slow for me and I wouldn't really be into it. But seeing the breakdowns of how things have happened and probably some of the things that help just, not catapult, but avalanche to the end of a lot of these relationships, you're kind of starting to see that happen and break down. So I'm actually loving it. And this episode in particular was packed full of tea, baby. I was like, oh my God, I really wish I would have I needed a cocktail. I don't know why I watched this episode with no cocktail. I don't know what I was thinking, but let's talk about it. So here we go. We go back, you know, Cody and Christine are back in this restaurant. He's still talking about his hurts. And I'm going to read my notes, you guys, because I wrote down some notes about it, but I didn't realize how close this was to the big blow up that Cody had with Janelle and Mary and Robin, where they were all in the back patio and he basically went off and Janelle walked out on his ass. I didn't know that this time period was so close. So it's interesting to hear him kind of bring it up where he said he has anger issues. And then even though he says he has anger issues, he still makes himself out to be the victim. And he brings up how it's Christine's fault because Christine is talking about him behind his back. I don't know how he would know that. He has no relationship with his children. So I'm curious how you would know exactly what is or is not being said with her children unless McKelty's running her mouth to you, which I have questions. McKelty, were you doing that at this time? I don't know. She kind of has a pick-me energy, and I think it's because she wasn't the oldest daughter, so she kind of fell in the middle. And I feel like those kids that kind of fall in the middle and they don't really, no one looks to them for responsibilities. Robin was like the only one that was like desperate to have her take on some responsibility. Like she needed her as like an adult type figure. None of the other parents were looking at McKelty like that. So I think she's always had a bit of a chip on her shoulder and kind of had a, I need attention, pick-me energy. So I would not be shocked if we found out she was the one going back to Cody and Robin blabbing about the conversations that we're having. But I don't know. That's just a guess for me, just an assumption. Doesn't mean that it's facts. But anyway, Christine to me has a level of grace I don't know if I would be able to have with a person like Cody. And I know that she probably has to feel like this man is really trying to gaslight me. And if I, number one, wasn't so happy and so far removed from this and really wasn't bothered about what he was doing, I think for her, she's probably like, I probably would be more mad about this. But because I'm so far removed from him and I'm just so thankful I'm not dealing with him anymore, I don't even care to be mad at him. Like she had so many opportunities to just check him and go off on him in those conversations. And she just was so, okay, yeah, you want to be mad? That's fine, Cody. Yeah, I don't want you to be mad. And he was just trying to find ways to bait her into being angry, being the bad guy, and he couldn't do it. And you could just tell he was getting frustrated because he could not bait this woman. So Christine, a couple of snaps to you, boo-boo, because you definitely held that down and held it together, and you could have went off on him multiple times in that conversation. And you paid the check because you're a boss like that. So, all right, Christine, I see you, girl. So after that was all done, he's also talking about how Christine stabbed him in the back. And his whole Machiavelli terminal, you guys, he's like so left field to me. Like, I don't know what platforms he's been on that he's been engaging in these conversations, because his vocabulary is very, not just manosphere, but it's like very conspiracy theory-ish. It's really odd, y'all. And I don't know if that's, I mean, I can't even say that's in the gun circuit, because wasn't he working in like the sportsman circuit before he started acting like this? I just don't remember this dude being like this person. I'm almost as stunned as Janelle and Mary and them are. I'm looking at him like, who is this dude? I just don't ever remember him in all the other seasons being this angry and just, I mean, he had a sense of patriarchy, but he also was like, I have very capable wives. I'm going to let them do what they need to do. So something about that relationship with Robin and how she acted in that situation, it's like she peeped the gap in stroking his ego. Like, she saw the ego stroking gap. And it's like she told herself, you know what? These women are running independently. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to act like the damsel in distress, because this man needs to feel like he is rescuing somebody and that everything she needs is dependent on him. And that's exactly what she did. And I feel like that really, that her relationship dynamic had a horrible impact on all of the others. And it doesn't necessarily mean that she's to blame. It just means that was the wrong type of relationship dynamic to introduce to already existing relationships that were functioning. Whether they were dysfunctional or not, they had a lot of functional components, because there was no way they could be that dysfunctional if they were able to figure it out and live in that one home. That's just something to kind of think about. So I was kind of wondering, did the big picture really include all the other wives? Because it seems to me in his fantasy, it only included the other wives, but not intimacy with the other wives, just the financial boost that the other wives could provide for him, and for the religious and ego boost that it could provide. But I don't think he had any desire to really pour into any of the other wives outside of Robin, nor do I really think he had the capacity to do it. It seems like he just didn't really have it in him to actually be able to pour into each one of those relationships and be able to really cultivate life after kids. And I think maybe why it worked for as long as it did with Janelle and Christine is because a lot of it revolved around the children. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't even know if they ever really liked each other or would have been with each other long term had it not been for the kids. And we know a lot of people's relationships that are like that, where people stay together for the kids and then the kids go off and they're looking at each other like, who are you? We have nothing in common. And then they end up getting divorced. So I don't know. His whole big picture thing is interesting to me. And also to say that Robin had no impact on these breakdowns is absolutely ridiculous. It's clear as day that there was an impact. You can't tell me that it had no impact if all of the wives are saying there was a shift when this happened. And there's a way to take accountability for shifts, or to even have some empathy for the feelings of the other wives without feeling as though you're saying you're to blame or you're responsible. Like, I don't hear Robin taking any accountability or any real empathy for why these women would feel that way. It's like she's oblivious to any of the changes or adjustments or situations, or she just seems like she's in such victim mode. She's like what do they call it, a covert narcissist, where it's like she has such tunnel vision on how it has impacted her, how she's a victim. She's so focused on finding a way to make herself a victim in all these situations that she has no real empathy for anybody else. And all the crying and emotions feel like fake empathy. It makes you think she's empathetic, but she's only empathetic for herself, for Cody and her children. Only people that, and they're all people that directly impact her and her feelings. So I don't know that how she was responding in this episode was really frustrating for me. Very difficult to watch. I have never really cared for her, but this episode kind of took it over the top for me, where I was like, she's really trying to play Boo Boo the fool. Like, she's really trying to play stupid. It was very crazy and very odd. I also thought it was funny how he basically wishes Christine was miserable. And Christine, like she said, is not thinking about him. And he's so mad that she's not miserable. He just cannot fathom that she would be happy not having to deal with him. In his brain, he's like, the bare minimum of what I was giving you should have been enough to keep you happy. It's crazy. If he got the bare minimum, that man would have left all the women if he got the bare minimum. So that just was interesting to me. And I was glad that he got up and got out of there. And I was giggling right along with Christine. Like, this he's a clown. Toodaloo. Glad that was over. Here comes Counselor Robin again, being the enabler, the Cody enabler. She's making all these excuses for him, his feelings, his needs. He's sad. He's had a lot of burdens to bear. He's had really heavy situations. Everybody else needs to work around him. When you decide to take on this role, number one, when you decide to be a father and a husband, you get to have feelings. And I think also as women, we should make sure we are supporting our partners when it comes to their feelings and their needs too, because you shouldn't be silent, but at the same time, you're the trunk of the tree. You are the trunk. That's why everybody has your last name. You're the trunk. The rest of us are the leaves and the branches. If you can't hold down and be the roots, be the foundation of this family, it's all going to come tumbling down. And when you're a tree and you have roots that pull up water, you have to distribute that water to every branch and every leaf. If you only send the water to the one branch and you neglect the other branches, guess what? Those branches will fall off and die. And in turn, the whole tree will die with it. And at some point, he thought maybe he could just water one branch and not the others, and everything would just be okay. They would just suffice. They would figure it out. Maybe they would siphon off another tree. I don't know what he was thinking, but that type of way of thinking, when you're supposed to be the base and the root and the foundation, it's never going to work. And so he totally failed in that. And Robin, cut it with the counseling, girl. You're not qualified. And you're giving him, there's no accountability that you're requiring of Cody at all for any of this. It is crazy to me. He talks about he doesn't trust Christine. She probably doesn't trust you either. And honestly, you're going through a divorce. So there's going to be, at this point, I don't think anybody trusts anyone at this point. Can we just be amicable and be able to co-parent in a simple way and ultimately maybe be friends? And then at some point, if we've developed enough, responsible interactions between each other, we might have trust again. But no one's going to have trust 2 months out. Why don't we we're bringing this up? Of course you don't trust her. She doesn't trust you either. That's stupid. Irrelevant. Moving on. Here we go with talking about Christine, where she says, I used to care so much. Like, I wanted to be the best wife. I wanted everything to be great. Even if it didn't matter to him, I still just wanted to work so hard to give him everything he wanted, everything he needed to be the best possible wife ever. And eventually it got to a point for her where the reciprocation of what he was giving her was so little to non-existent that she could no longer do it. She could no longer care about somebody that clearly did not care about her. And that's just, I don't think there's any other way of saying it. At a certain point, if you've been pouring into somebody, your cup is empty now. You're pouring into this person and they're just drinking the water, and you're continuing to fill that cup up, and they're not doing the same for you. They're not sharing. They're not sharing. They're not sharing with you. They're pouring nothing back into yours. You are the only person pouring out. And at some point with any person, any situation, that's going to eventually be an issue and a problem. So I'm not surprised that Christine was done and over with that. As they moved on with the conversation, I I think about how they talked about being friends after divorce, and my parents had a horrible, nasty divorce. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. It was expensive. It impacted everybody financially, emotionally. Till this day, my parents aren't even friends. If they're in the same room, they can say like hi, whatever, but it's awkward and weirdo, and I hate it. And it has had a great impact on my life and for my brother's life. Dealing with parents that had nasty divorces and were not able to be friends after. And I see my friends that parents are friends after their divorce, and that has had such a positive impact on them. And so if you're out there and you're trying to get a divorce, please, for the love of God, if you have kids, try your hardest to really put your kids first. And by that, figure out how to coexist and have a friendship, or at least have an amicable divorce if you can. Limit the amount of money you're wasting away trying to be the winner in a situation, because it does nothing but negatively impact your children. Just FYI. How about we not splurge, college tuition on a divorce? Trying to prove points. So that's just a little note from a product of divorce to you. Watching it too, how angry he is, how everyone's talking about how angry Cody is, and all the anger in the manosphere. It's very much victim energy. Everything that came out of his mouth was him being victimized in some way. It was never him victimizing anybody else. It was always him being victimized. And I have to be honest with this, you guys, and some people may not like what I'm saying, but I'm a white man in America, and they're trying to erase me, and I'm the target. I'm the actual target, and I'm the victim. That's what it's giving me. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I want you to really think about that, because that's honestly how I was feeling watching him. And all I can say to him is grow up. Just grow up. As the episode's winding down, Robin's talking about the deal breakers in marriage. And for her to say, I didn't see any deal breakers, that's because you didn't want to see them. Why would you want to see the deal breaker? Why would you want to see the demise? Because when these relationships fail, it doesn't benefit you that they would fail. You were getting his time whether they were there or not. Once these relationships started failing, the panic was probably setting in with you, because you knew financially this was going to have a pretty significant impact on you. And also for your relationship, you couldn't just only be the good guy. There was nobody else for him to blame once all the marriages start dissolving. And so for you, it wasn't that you didn't see it. You just didn't care to see it because it wasn't impacting you yet. Now that it's impacting you, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, where did this all come from? I didn't see this. I don't think these are deal breakers or red flags. And then she says something which really pissed me off. And she says that, this is exactly what she says, I didn't see anything heinous enough. Think about that word, you guys. Heinous? If I have to use the word heinous to describe something happening in my relationship, and I would need it to be to that level for me to get a divorce, it's pretty crazy to me. I don't know why it can't simply be, this is a unhappy, loveless marriage. Even just saying this is a loveless marriage is plenty reason to get a divorce. Our lives are way too short to be sitting in unhappy, loveless marriages when you can go out into the world and meet somebody that you're evenly yoked with, that is your person, that you can have a loving, fulfilling, happy relationship with. And it doesn't mean that you may not have arguments too, but how you deal with each other, how you communicate, how you interact, how you love each other is so vital and so important. And for Robin to even fathom, I mean, the selfishness of that request to tell your sister wives they have no choice but to leave a marriage only if it is heinous. And I'm wondering for her, does she feel a sexless, loveless marriage is considered heinous to her? I'm curious if she does or doesn't. Because if she were to tell me that she felt all her sister wives should stick in these loveless, sexless, no intimacy relationships till the end of time, while she's having a fully functioning relationship, and they should just be happy with that because it's not considered heinous. Because he's not beating, you know, he's not doing DV or anything else. You think that's what we're talking about here? So they would have to go through that in order for them to justify leaving someone. That's really sick. And that would tell me, Robin, you need therapy. That you really need therapy. And I'm noticing too, you're doing a lot of weaponizing of words, and it's really, it's very dangerous. She did this with the word safe. She's done this now with the word heinous. She's using vocabulary to me that is very dangerous. And I'm hoping nobody's taking advice from her on how to handle a relationship. Because what might start off as something as simple as arguing could turn into something really bad really quick. And I don't think you should stick it out and wait for that to happen if you're already seeing the signs. So yeah, I thought she was giving very dangerous advice. I would not be listening to Robin if I were y'all. Moving forward, they're doing Thanksgiving now. Janelle's going to Maddie's house. I thought that was super cute, seeing the family together. Love that Hunter goes out there, is really involved with his family. You can just tell Hunter loves being with his family. It was funny when they asked later, when Christine asked later how Isabel's doing, and Janelle was saying, you know, she's having a little bit of adjustment because she looked a little sad, like when they're kind of sitting around and stuff. I was like, oh, Isabel looked a little bit sad. And I was like, I wonder if she's having a tough time transitioning into college and like living with, you know, like even though that's her sister, it's different from living with your mom, living with, you know, your sister and stuff. Even though they're probably great, it's still a transition. And her and her mom are really close, as they talked about last season, almost codependently close. And that's one of the reasons why she moved to North Carolina, was to kind of get out on her own. But she did look a little sad. So I just wanted to send Isabel a hug so bad, because I'm like, oh my God, girl, I know. When you're going away to college for the first time, even if you're with other family, it's just not the same as your mom and dad. So I totally understood that. I want to know if you, guys, I didn't have time to check, but somebody tell me that Thanksgiving footage with Cody and Mary and Robin and the kids, is that from last year or is that new footage? Because it was looking eerily similar. Maybe it's new. Maybe I'm going to go back and check while this is uploading, and I'll put it in the notes if the outfits were the same or not. Because I was like, is she still letting people in the house and she's using old footage for Thanksgiving? It better not be, y'all. It better not be old footage. I'll let you know in the comments if they recycled Thanksgiving footage, because Robin wouldn't let them in the house. Anyway, blah, blah. They're getting over the holidays. This is where Robin once again makes her kids the victims. She never lets the other children be victims. Only her kids can be the victims. And if she keeps them in this mode of being a victim, then nobody ever has to take accountability. She doesn't have to take accountability. Her children, Cody, nobody has to take accountability if you stay in this space of victimhood. And she's done a superior job keeping her children in victim mode. She could have easily just told them, hey guys, a lot of y'all are adults now. It's really hard to get everybody together for holidays. This is nothing personal to anybody. Janelle just wants to make sure she's checking on Maddie. They got a new home, so she's going to be there. Christine, you know, it's Mitch's family's turn. They don't want to leave that family out. They're trying to make sure they're blending their families as well. This is going to be an off year. I just think it's crazy to think that every single year of a family that large, you're all going to get together. There's no way. On top of the fact, Cody has a lot of mess to clean up. He is not getting along with his children. His children don't want to deal with him. So to be quite honest, it has nothing to do with her kids. It has to do with their relationships with you and Cody. And unfortunately, your children are collateral damage. And instead of you taking accountability for the breakdowns of those relationships, you're blaming everybody else and making your kids victims. They're not victims. They're not victims. They just, unfortunately, because they're connected to you, they're going to be a casualty of this situation. They're just going to be negatively impacted. But they're not a victim. Nobody's purposely going out of their way to not be with them or not see them or not connect with them. Unfortunately, because you and Cody do not have the solid connections and relationships with the other sister wives, this is the result of that. And also too, a lot of these people are grown adults with their own husbands and their own wives and long-term partners. They may not always be able to come home to be with the Brown family for every holiday. And Thanksgiving, no shade, is not like the most serious holiday. I mean, it's kind of like a throwaway. And the reason I know that is because I am a Thanksgiving baby, and I have my birthday every 7 years on that day. And believe me, it's very throwaway. Sorry, we eat and then we keep it moving. It's not that serious. So I hated that. I thought that was so incredibly toxic that she was doing that. And not one of the parents said that they didn't care to see her children. So I feel like she's just lying at this point and making stuff up to her kids instead of taking personal accountability for where the relationships are at with the family and where her personal relationships are at with the other children and the other wives. Like, she does not want to take accountability. She's just like Cody. They both make excuses for each other. Another note I made too is that Cody says that he didn't even make an attempt to call his boys. So if he really wanted them there, you would think that he would have picked up a phone and tried to call his boys to see, like, hey, can we clean this up? He doesn't really have a desire to have them there. And I wish he would just be honest and say that. Also, as they go through and they're talking about now the Zoom call, y'all, the Zoom call. When I tell you this Zoom call provided some tea about what's going on with this family, poor Logan, trying to be the big brother, getting all his siblings together. Where they messed up at was whoever said we should tell them parents. They didn't need to tell the parents anything unless it, and even for Robin's kids, her older kids could have handled the gifts for the little ones. They were the smartest thing Logan did was he messaged it to his siblings. He did not message those parents because he knows once you bring the parents in, you bring their toxic relationships and all of their baggage with them. If he would have just kept it, just like he was trying to, kept it within the siblings, I can guarantee you guys that that whole gift exchange would have went off without a hitch. But here goes Robin interceding with this, trying to make it a bigger deal than what it was. All they wanted to do was just do something nice for each other, like back in the day when they used to draw each other's names, keep some form of tradition that the younger babies that you beg so much for your kids to be included on, well, they were included, and here you go stepping in and ruining it. All the other wives said this was a misunderstanding. Robin's the only one making herself the victim in it. And then here goes Cody once again confirming her victimhood and not stepping in and saying, Robin, this is an over-exaggeration. You're taking it to the max. It's not that serious. He refuses to do that. So he didn't help it. He does not hold her accountable, just like she doesn't hold him accountable. That was such a mess. I feel so bad for those siblings. And I don't know how you possibly can blend a family when you have people like Robin stepping in and making it about them and ruining it. And then comes back and says, well, my kids didn't feel comfortable. Well, because you made yourself and them a victim again. They were fine before you got in there. Once you got in there, all of a sudden now it's a problem. Now it's an issue. There's a reason why your youngest children don't know all their siblings' names, because you isolated your children. You could have easily sent your kids over there to spend time with their siblings, spend time with their other moms. But no, you didn't want to do that. You made excuses. You went and got a nanny instead of using Christine. Even when Christine said, hey, I'm here to help you. No, you had to find a way to keep it separate. Just admit it. You wanted things separate, girl. Admit it. It's crazy to me. It's just, those kids were the only excuse she had to be a stay-at-home parent and to not have to work. So that's why she wouldn't let Christine in there as well, is because once she didn't have those kids, she had no reason why she had no real job. That's the only reason why she's been able to get away with it for so long. And that's why she, what do they call it? Infantizing them? I think that's close, like infantile or infantizes her children. But the younger they feel, when they use terminology like tender aged, they're doing that because as long as it appears that she needs to be a full-time mom, she doesn't have to get a real job. And not to say that parenting is not a real job. So that's trying to be shady. But y'all know what I'm talking about. She's not the only person. She's got nannies and everything else, y'all. She has help. She's using this as a reason why she doesn't have to have a 9-to-5, or at least investing in some type of job like the MLMs that Christy and them are doing. They're hustling. It's just a way for her to make excuses for her not having to hustle. That's the end of that. The blended families portion, when they talked about that, I don't know for any of you guys that have tried to blend families. I've had to try to do it a couple times with my mom who's been remarried before, and it is not easy to blend families. And the older that people are when it happens, the harder it is actually to blend them. And also too, when you do it under distress, and there's a lot of stress that comes with the kids' lives when that happens, that can be difficult. I mean, once Robin came in, all of a sudden now they're moving. The families are split apart. They're seeing less time with their dad. I mean, a lot of things happened. And when you look at Robin's family, what did they lose out on? They didn't have their dad there, according to Robin. So all they did was have things added to their house. The rest of the kids had things taken away. Now there's more kids, more mouths to feed. Now our dad has another wife. That's less time he's with us. So they had things taken away. Robin's kids had things that they had added on. And I don't know if anybody ever acknowledged that to those children. Like, hey guys, I know this is actually taking away and we're actually spreading him thinner than he already is. And we need to acknowledge that, and we need to be mindful of that. They were not mindful of that. From the beginning, they were not mindful of that. And making her children the victim all the time doesn't help. Nobody made you the outsider. Robin, you let yourself be the outsider. And frankly, you, Cody, and Mary, in my opinion, are to blame for how this all started off on the wrong foot, because you kept that connection a secret from Christine and Janelle. And that's the one rule in these plural marriages. You cannot have secrets like that. You cannot. It felt like a setup, I bet. I bet Christine and Janelle felt set up from the beginning, because Mary was being selfish, trying to salvage her own relationship, to have a secret with Cody, to make him happy because her relationship was so miserable. And unfortunately, this is the result of that. So it just started off with lies. And I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do about that. Also, too, when you have multiple wives, and then when the husband plays favorites with that, this is the result. You're not going to have a good blend. If I was a kid that's part of a polygamous family and my dad brought on a new wife, you know, I'm already irritated because I'm like, great, we barely see you as it is, but okay. And then when that happens, all of a sudden I see you spending less and less time here at this house. And I'm thinking about Logan. I'm also thinking about Aspen. They're taking on more responsibility because their parents are the only ones there, and you're not at those homes, and they're not in the blended house anymore, right? They're in separate homes now. So now, even if Logan needed help from one of the other moms, they weren't there because he was in a home just with his family, just with his direct siblings with his mom. Same for Aspen. So Cody's absence in these homes was greatly felt immediately when you add another woman in there, because you're taking time away, and now they're all in separate homes. So they're even further apart and they have less help. So I'm not hearing any, like, Cody doesn't want to give Robin any responsibility for that, and Robin doesn't want to take any either, and neither does Cody. They don't want to take any responsibility for any of that. Robin refuses to hold him accountable. It's disgusting. I literally had to turn it off, you guys. When she was trying to give Cody another break, this time when it deals with parenting, and saying it's the mom's responsibility. No, it's not. It's his responsibility. And it's even more his responsibility when you're not very present. When you know your time is split, you have to take the time. You have to be invested. And the man just said, I don't want to invest anymore. And he didn't want to admit it. He didn't want to admit that. So that made me sick, y'all. I literally had to turn it off because I was sick. Another time I had to turn it off too was, oh, I do want to say too, that when Christine said she doesn't think Robin's ever lived plural marriage, I bet you every single person that watched this episode, that has been watching for years, when I know, maybe you did this, because I screamed out loud when she said that. I said, we have been saying this for years now. This woman has no idea what it feels like to live plural marriage. She has not lived in the same home for any extended amount of time. She really hasn't even had to share him, because he made her a priority. She's been a priority from the beginning. So we've been saying this for years. And you know, Christine was like, I'm not gonna say anything. No, I was like, Christine, spill all the tea, girl. We've been waiting, sis. We've been waiting 18 seasons for this. Tell us, let it out. What do you have to lose at this point? You're done. Let it out. Tell us how you really feel, because we've been waiting for somebody to acknowledge that this woman has no idea, and neither did her mom. They have no idea what it's like to live plural marriage. Full stop. We don't need to talk about it no more. The ear piercing scene was another rageful scene for me, because once again, we're seeing Cody, just like with, what's her name, Ariella, when he was asking her about her day at school. And if you guys watch Gwendolyn do her Patreons and things like that, she mentioned how, wow, I wish my dad would have asked me about how my school day was and was invested in me like that. Never did that. So it's another situation where he's investing in Robin's kids the time and energy that he did not invest in any of the others. He does not have an ear piercing story with not one of his other daughters. How many daughters does he have, y'all? 8 others? Well, 7. But if you think about when Leon was growing up, Leon just recently transitioned. So at one point, Cody had 8. He has 7 at this point from the prior moms. That man was not this present for any of them. And you've actually heard them say that plenty of times, that he would make time to like hang out with the boys because he had things in common with the boys, but he always struggled to connect with his daughters. Why is it now all of a sudden he can find a way to connect with his daughters? He couldn't do it before, but now he can. I just find it very convenient, that whole situation where he's like, this is a daddy-daughter. Y'all, it just made me so sick. I was just thinking how I would feel if I were watching my dad do that, and I knew my dad didn't take that time for me and didn't invest in me like that, and I had to watch him doing that with his adopted daughter, but he didn't do that with me. Oh my God. That would make me so sick. That just, oh my God, that made me so sick, y'all. I'm curious how you felt about that. Write it in the comments, because that was a lot. I had to take a break after watching that too. It was a lot for me. Watching Christine and Janelle talk, Janelle really looks done to me, you guys. She seems kind of done. I think too, when when Cody's talking about how the only people that were inviting to Robin and the family was Mary. Robin came with a lot of baggage. She came with children baggage. She came with debt baggage. And there's just really no real acknowledgement of like how that really truly impacted the first family, the existing nucleus family. They were already struggling paycheck to paycheck prior to her coming in. And you and Mary were so selfish in this situation, and then used religion, used a calling to dangle it over the heads of Janelle and Christine, because you knew that they would have to go along with it because you said you had a calling. It makes me so sick. It was so manipulative. And you're just continuously trying to avoid the elephant in the room, that all of this has a lot to do with Robin coming into the family. I'm sorry. I don't know another way around it, y'all. It has a lot to do with it. So I think too, when they talked about how COVID wasn't really the catalyst, you know, he was already kind of pulling away from his family before COVID. So I agree with him talking about that. And this episode, y'all, was, woo, it was a lot. It was a great episode. It was very difficult to watch. There haven't been too many episodes where I've been just so boiling mad and irate so many times that I had to take a break from watching it. This was a lot for me. It took a lot out of me. And I had to watch it twice because I wanted to make sure I got all my notes in, but it was not an easy watch at all. I would say if you're just, it could be triggering for some people. Just some of the things that were said was just really triggering for me. I didn't think that I was going to be so emotionally affected and invested with this. It was crazy. The preview, y'all, for next week's the blow up between Cody and Janelle, woohoo, it looks spicy. We got an insight look as to more of what he was saying. That man is, his level of rude is like, I could not imagine my partner of 20, 30 years talking to me the way he was talking to Janelle. I mean, I would have been divorced after that conversation. I would have been divorced, because you could tell he spoke to her as if she was nobody to him, as if this woman had not sacrificed. I mean, gave you 6 beautiful children. That he was talking to her like she was like a stranger off the street, like the scum of the earth. It was so gross. And that was just only a clip. So I can't even imagine, you guys, what this next episode is going to look like. If I see any clips that really pique my interest, I might jump on and do like a quick little video to talk about it. But other than that, I'll definitely be back next week to chat about episode 3. If you hung out to the end of this video, thank you guys. It's been so much fun. I'm loving you guys talking in the comments with me. That has been so much fun engaging with you. I'm loving it. I feel like I'm talking to my girlfriends over the phone when I'm talking about this episode, because I have to talk about it, which is crazy that this show is to the point where we're like, I cannot wait. I have to jump on this camera and talk about this episode. So I'll see you next week. If you haven't liked the video, you guys, please hit that like button. Help me out. It definitely will help me to build my channel. I'm really trying to grow it. I think I have like 6 or 7 subscribers now. So yay, it's bumping up there. We're moving. So yes, definitely hit the like button. And then also subscribe if you haven't. We'll be here every week talking. And I love hearing from you. Until next week. See ya.